Hey, it's Mazzy. Happy Boxing Day. Well, it's not quite Boxing Day. In fact, it's early. Boxing Day is the day after Christmas in Britain. It's the day Magical Mystery Tour was originally shown back in 1967 in black and white. It never showed up here. There's going to be a one little connection thing that's going to turn up about that film, Magical Mystery Tour, that debacle, the first Beatle failure, maybe one might say, but interesting. So these are the best box sets of 2024. These are my favorite box sets of 2024, which means these are the ones that I purchased and I like. Now, obviously, this isn't everything. There are omissions because either I don't have them or I didn't feel they fit in this list of 11 or 12 or so box sets, okay? And I am ranking them because people like ranking. Now, let me say this up front in terms of the ranking. It's hard to compare and say some music is better than others. So the way I've calculated the ranking here is obviously music, because music is important. But when you put together a box set, design, packaging, and content is as important in this particular video. So just bear with me here. Yes, it's the music, stupid, first, but when you have a box set and you combine it. Now, some of these combine, I think only one combines various artists. The others are hold together one artist. In some cases, it's a full catalog or a partial catalog of an artist. Sometimes it's all over the place, a real mix. And occasionally it's one album that's been developed and expanded with outtakes. So here we go with Mazzy's best box sets of 2024. Probably too late to order to get by Christmas, but put it on your list. There's something for everyone here. And not everything here is for everyone either. I'm going to start here with number 12, and it's a CD box. It's called Pour a Little Sugar on It. I wanted to say this is sunshine pop, but it's really bubblegum music. In fact, it's called The Chewy Chewy Sounds of American Bubblegum, 1966 to 1971. Now, there are plenty of bubblegum aficionados that have much more knowledge about these records than I do. I knew most of these records myself. I didn't own a lot of them. And this is a really good box set, yet it's incomplete. Major omissions, but it's such an enjoyable listen. I had a blast playing these three CDs. I blasted them several times, just completely in order in a row. And it's fun music. I think it's great. Now, as far as I know, it's only on CD, and it's from Grapefruit, which is a division of Cherry Red out of the UK. They put fabulous comps together and really reasonable, mostly in the CD format. Occasionally, there's some vinyl things, but these things make more sense on compact disc. But you flip the records, too many songs, licensing issues, pressing things. Having this on CD is great. Now, these, as I said, are three separate discs, jam-packed with bubblegum music. Obviously, the one people think of the most right off the bat is the Archie Sugar Sugar, where the title of this set comes from. Yes, incomplete things missing, and a lot of bands covered more than once, several tracks by a handful of artists. And there are some questionable selections here. A few things. There's a Velvet Underground song on here. That really kind of surprised me. Although it's called Who Loves the Sun, and it kind of fits in the vibe of sunshine pop, or at least the vibe, I should say, of bubblegum music. Obviously, there's the 1910 Fruit Gum Company, Ohio Express, the Monkees, the Archies, Paul Revere and the Raiders, Crazy Elephant, Neil Diamond, Chewy Chewy, Cherry Cherry, Chewy Chewy, Cherry Cherry, Lovey Lovey, Sugar Sugar. That's what bubblegum music is about. It's very kind of sunshiny pop, grassroots, the Globetrotters, San Francisco Earthquake, the Electric Prunes, not the real garage psychedelic stuff, I would say. But there's some fun stuff up here. The Knack. The Goggles. Tommy Rowe, of course. You have to have Tommy Rowe on here. The Box Tops, Cry Like a Baby. Oh, God. Well, just a fun set, enjoyable set. It's got a really well-curated booklet here that goes through every song and a little bit background of every artist here. Wonderfully curated. Where we are now in the world, the crazy, wacky world of the planet Earth right now, having some bubblegum music is just a wonderful escape. That's all I will say. You don't have to get so serious. You got the Cowsills there, too. But coming in number 12, Pour a Little Sugar on It. American bubblegum music, 1966 to 1971. Coming in at number 11, Bob Dylan. This is the 1974 Bob Dylan and the Band tour. The first time I saw Bob Dylan, I've been on this kind of roll of Bob Dylan things. You probably may have seen the audiophile Bob Dylan video I shot. I'm all in on Dylan. This has almost every show here, but what they did is they only included recordings that are board tapes or multi-tracks later than a tour, which is pretty much the West Coast. I think Vancouver, Seattle, Oregon, and the Bay Area here, Oakland at the Bay Area, and fabulous. Now, these kind of sets are not for everybody, but I am all in on Dylan, and it's wonderful to have this box set of all these CDs, 27 discs worth of live Dylan. Now, there was a companion, separate but a companion, Third Man in their Vault series, the limited edition on vinyl of 3 records, and different than what's on the CD set, and this was only available in the Vault series. Done and gone. You can't get it anymore unless you find it, someone flipping it. It's a gatefold, and of course, it's just a nice addition to my Dylan collection. And it is 3 LPs. Bob Dylan coming in at number 11 on the best box sets of 2024. And coming in at number 10, Andwella. Band originally called The Method, led by Dave Lewis from Belfast. This is an Irish band, UK band, and they only put 3 albums out. Numero Group did this box this year, and I had vaguely heard of them, but I'd never heard their records. I've seen a few of their records, but this is a fabulous box set. It's psychedelic. It's got a little bit of a slight jazz tinge to it, a little bit of like the band. But 1969, 70, 71, they put out 3 records, and they are compiled here by Numero Group. And To Dream. There's a booklet here, but let me just show you the LP covers first. Andwella's Dream, a beautiful cardboard stock, wonderfully reproduced records, great sounding records. Don't know if they're analog or not, but they sound fantastic. There's World's End 2 with this cover. This is a killer record. I don't know if I have a favorite here, but I just put these on and just, they're groovy. They're really good records. And I think Numero did a great job. This is the 10th best box set of the year from my point of view. And then there's Andwella, People's People here. Dave Lewis would go on to do some solo records, but they just never really connected here. Really cool music, really fun music, but you know, they just didn't click. And I don't remember seeing these albums at the time. So coming in at number 10, Andwella's Dream, Numero Group, the fantastic overview of their career, the failures, the triumphs, if there were any, but the great music here, coming at number 10 on Numero Group, Andwella, The Method, before they were Andwella. Coming in at number 9. Now, there's a vinyl version of this, which I do not have, and I'm mixing formats here. I think it's totally fine, because it's my rules. And this is Talking Heads 77. Now, this is basically the kind of release that really takes one album and expands on it. This is from Rhino. Again, there's a vinyl version. This is the CD version, the multi-disc version. And this contains 3 CDs and a Blu-ray. And in the set, it's the original album remastered. Sounds great. There's a disc of rarities, which I really like, because You know, when I was playing this, I've had the original album since day one, since 1977, The Talking Heads, and it's really a basic album, but you really hear the soulfulness and the funkiness that they would, you know, open up more and get into later with their percussive and Afro beats and things. And I realized how much soul they were. Obviously, Psycho Killer's on here, but there's horns on here too. They're mixed back, but I, for some reason, noticed them more in here. They're into this kind of R&B thing. These art school nerds doing that. It's just a really great record, and it's a really good sounding record. There was also a wonderful live show from October 77 live at CBGB's on here. And then there's a high-res stereo 5.1 Atmos mix Blu-ray. Now, I don't have a surround system, but the Blu-ray sounded excellent on my Oppo player, so it sounded really good. It has a wonderful book here, of course, going through the whole history of this album, how they recorded it, how they got signed. And it has really well done curations and stories from each of the four members, talking about the time, the early days of the band, and especially the experience around this album. And I think the essay from Tina Weymouth was the most interesting. I really like this quite a bit here, but a wonderful package here from Rhino. I think in this kind of case, a CD is sufficient, but I'm sure the vinyl one is great. It's obviously that is a square format, and this is more of the book style format. But Rhino Records coming in number 9, Talking Heads 77, the debut album by the great new wave group, the whole CBGB scene out of New York. Coming in at number 8, Elvis Costello, the King of America and Other Realms. This captures this period of time in Elvis's career in around 1987, before, during, and after, pretty much around that time, around this album, King of America. Very different album for Elvis at the time, produced by T-Bone Burnett, who would, they would collaborate for years on a handful of things over the years. And this is just a really great, wonderful, a little more in the country vein, a great band he has on, not working with the Attractions for the first time, as I recall, but there is the proper remastered album in here. And then there's a second disc of all these kind of great outtakes, works in progress, demos, and other realms, as Elvis calls it. And they're really, really great versions of it. You hear like the sketches of it, but well-recorded acoustic guitar songs. Some different arrangements, obviously, because it doesn't have the whole band arrangements on there. Then it has a fabulous 1987 live concert with this wonderful band at the Royal Albert Hall. And then there's some other things around this time. There's a series of New Orleans, around the Mississippi, with artists like Emmylou Harris at the Montreal Jazz Fest, a rehearsal with Dave Bartholomew and the Dirty Dozen, a brass band on here. Other pieces of music that fit the spirit of this, not all around the exact same time frame on here. There's a whole series of unissued things, of demos. There's a collaboration with Ralph Stanley, with Emmylou Harris, Gillian Welch, and David Rawlings live at the Grand Ole Opry. And it's just a great mixed up collection of music that fits in this kind of genre that Elvis was doing here. And then there's some other collaborations with Chris Christopherson, Rosanna Cash, the Memphis Magnetic version of Indoor Fireworks, and That Day Is Gone with the Fairfield Four gospel singers. What a great book this is. I would say my only issue with it, it's a weird size form factor, and that is an issue with CDs, box sets, and all. You want things to be sort of consistent. There was a time when you had the kind of a longer box format of box sets, and a lot of CD sets came that way. And then there's the cubes, and Rhino was putting out in the 90s and the 2000s some strange, bizarre sets as well. But this has some great curation by Elvis himself, talking about this time, talking about where he was musically, Elvis Costello, King of America and Other Realms, coming in at number 8 on the best box sets of the year. Coming in at number 7, a band I think that aren't acknowledged as much as they should be in terms of one of the greatest rock and roll bands in the early 1970s, and that's the Faces. The Faces came out of the, should I say, ashes, once Steve Marriott left and things sort of fragmented. The Small Faces became the Faces. You got two tall guys in Ron Wood and Rod Stewart, and they became a different band. What a great band they became, but they're very different than the Ichigo Park Faces. And Here Comes the Nice, that whole period where they were kind of that heavy, soulful voice of Steve Marriott. How can you follow it up? But you get Rod Stewart and Ronnie Wood here, and you got very similar to what the Rolling Stones did, but a little grittier. They were one of the best bands around this time. And this is Faces the BBC, the complete BBC recordings from 1970 to 1973. This is excellent. This is, again, another somewhat strange form factor. It is square, I think, somewhat, but it's about 11 inches square, maybe. So it's not even the... well, it's maybe just 11.5 inches. So it's sort of LP size, but not quite LP size. Again, it has the multi-discs in here. It's got 8 CDs plus a Blu-ray, which has Sounds for Saturday from April 1972, a video of that. But you got some of these greatest performances here. Going back to July 1970, the John Peel Sunday concert. You have a bunch of John Peel sessions, including Sounds for Saturday, John Peel Sunday concerts in February 72, In Concert, which was never broadcast, from 73, and In Concert, another 73. Then you got Top Gear, Dave Lee Travis Show, a lot of British TV shows that I've heard of, some more familiar than others, especially the John Peel stuff. And this was one of John Peel's favorite bands. And it's killer recordings here. I'm a big fan of the BBC series. Various artists have done it, everyone from the Beatles to Bowie to the Stones to T-Rex to, countless others. Like with most of these box sets, the Faces has a really great curated book here. Essay by one of the producers who worked for the BBC talking about them specifically. There are little quotes here by each of the members, taken from various sources. Each of the members of their memories of working and playing at the BBC. And there's a wonderful series of photographs included here of the members, some of the performances of them at these shows in London. And I always just thought, I'm a big collector of these BBC shows of various artists, and those would be kind of great, some of the smaller audiences they had, when they had audiences. Not every time during these BBC recordings were there audiences, but here, definitely, there's Ian McLaughlin there on keyboards too. But this is a wonderful set. The Faces of the BBC coming in at number 7. Coming in at number 6, The Orb. Look at this. This is an outrageous package. 4 LPs of The Orb, going back 30 years of their music. These beautifully designed colored covers with 4 different color vinyl pressings in here. Now, the Orb are a mix of acid house. They're DJs that curate this music of acid house, electronica, psychedelic dub, EDM, IDM, just a mix of a plethora of sounds, of recordings from the 30 years, as well as outtakes and rarities. And it just really flows together. It could be a party record. This is a fun record. This is one of my most enjoyable listens of the past few months. And I pull this out like every Saturday early evening, just to kind of get the blood going here. But a beautiful package from Cooking Vinyl in the UK. 30 years of The Orb. It's called the Orboretum, the Orb Collection. And this would be a good way to really kind of immerse yourself in sounds that really kind of flow together, get the juices going. The Orb, coming in number 6 on the best box sets of 2024. The Doors. This is from Rhino Records. This is from the Rhino High Fidelity series, all analog, cut by Kevin Gray. The 6 albums that Jim Morrison appeared on, of course, from their debut up through LA Woman. Now, there is a separate video I did on this box. I think it's really good. And I compared these to the Analog Productions 45s. I believe there was 2 that I slightly liked the 45s better. One by more than a little, and one was just a toss-up. LA Woman I thought was a toss-up, depending if you don't have the 2. They're just slightly different. But I prefer 33 1/3. And so to get these with these beautiful covers and well-pressed records, this was one of my favorite listens. And it's making me feel I want to get rid of the 45 APs. Now, those are excellent records. I'm not going to diss them and say they're not. But when I have a 33, I'm always going to go for the 33 first over the 45. You can't beat these as far as I'm concerned, unless you dig out real clean copies of the originals. The box is sold out, but in January and beyond, they're going to be reissuing these as single one-offs. So you will be able to buy these. The Doors, it won't be numbered, but you don't really need numbered editions of these. But this is the Doors box from Rhino. This is coming in number 5 on my best box set. Coming in at number 4, the 1964 U.S. album by the Beatles on Capitol Records. This is a box that shouldn't have worked as well as it does. I was skeptical about this. As a collector, I had to order it. You can get the LPs, most of them individually, but this was a success. They did a great job. They went from the American master tapes, which means probably the 3rd generation or so, off the British editions. Different configurations. Most of you by now know what these are. There's a bit of a nostalgia factor in these for people like myself, but these sound excellent. They're fuller, they're richer. I like them all, and obviously some more than others, but of course you have Meet the Beatles. You have, to me, their best rock and roll album of the Beatles second. And I'm a big fan of the American Hard Day's Night with the George Martin songs mixed in, the scores, the tunes that he did for the film, for the motion picture, which you didn't get in the UK on the Hard Day's Night album there. So this is a box set that's not for everyone, but it's high on my list, number 4, because it is so successful and it sounds really good for what they did here. Of course, the mixes, the effects put on, the production that Dave Dexter Jr. put on with added reverb and echo basically made it suitable in his mind for the American audiences. Is that necessary? Who knows? But that's what it is historically. We had these records, not always mono, but in print in America for 25 years from the time the Beatles put them out by the time they came here in 1964. So there's something that a good portion of the world heard and listened to. As I said in the other video, I started getting into imports in 67 and 68, so I got used to all the British ones. But, you know, there's something that's sentimental about these records, and it's to hear the Beatles' second album, this rock and roll record that's, you know, a lot of covers and just rocks out, is really a fun listen and a great listen. And this is a box set that almost shouldn't have happened and shouldn't have worked, but it works beautifully. And I applaud them for doing it. I hope they do the 1965 edition too. But it's for a specific audience, and ironically, it's selling well, apparently. And the box set is doing well, and the individual sets are doing well. Again, it's an additional alternative thing, but it's the way that, you know, the biggest country at the time that got these records, that's the way we heard these records in 1964 and 1965. Coming in at number 3. Now, this is a band that I only got turned on to a few years ago. I totally missed this band the first time around, from around 1995 And these are their first 3 albums, plus a couple records of outtakes. This is the American Analog Set. This is New Drifters. This is also a Numero release. Numero's kicking ass on some of these obscure groups, at least obscure to some of us. I'm sure there are people that knew this band, kind of the slow core, a little bit influence of krautrock too, band out of Austin, Texas. And I tell you, when I put this on, the sound of these records was so live and so dry in the studio. I just love the way these sounds. No added reverb, no major production. It's seemingly like they're live. Now, I don't know if they did overdubs on it either, but these are beautiful records. They're a little bit of psychedelic. There's grungy guitar, but not grunge music guitar. In fact, that's what I like about this. What my problem with grunge, being in Seattle, I should like grunge more than I do, is it gets so wild, loose way and not as focused. But there's a softness of this band too. And I don't mean soft in terms of like easy listening, not at all. There's some psychedelic guitars that are almost lo-fi. There's some great, the bass and the guitars and the tightness of this band and the drumming, which is very intimate and very like it is like they're sitting in your living room just jamming for hours and putting these records out. Funny I said that now because I realized the American Set, from our living room to yours, the fun of watching fireworks, 9 Legend Road. I believe these might be the outtakes here. This is a double record of alternative and outtakes and things, rarities. And The Golden Band. Beautiful covers. I have no idea how I miss this intimate, slow core intenseness with their vocals. I mean, I like this kind of vocal thing. So I shouldn't even mention grunge in the same thing, because this band sounds nothing like grunge, although it's around that kind of time period. So if I had gotten this record back then, oh my God, I wish I had. I love this. And of course, like all the others, there's a wonderful book that curates this. Apparently, Numero Group's gonna do another series from the next label they were on too. But this is really well done, well designed, beautifully put together. The sound of these records are incredible. Again, it's my number 3 box sets of all these box sets of all these major bands. It's nice to have some things that are new to me, because, a lot of people my age, your age maybe, will buy the same thing, buy all that Beatles shit, buy that Bob Dylan crap, buy an Elvis Costello in the faces. But when you get something like this, now this is new. This is 30 years old by almost. So it's just new to me, and it's really great to hear this sound. So coming in at number 3, the American Analog Set, New Drifters, the Numero Group, 229. That's the number there, 229. Great record, great box set, wonderful. Coming in at number 2, a massive box set, The Cube of Mind Games. Now, I'm going to have to do this in cutaways. Now, this is one of the most elaborate box sets I've ever owned, I've ever seen. It's an art piece in its own, based on the work of John Lennon and Yoko Ono. Sean Ono Lennon and his team curated this magnificently. Is it over the top? Absolutely. Is it conceptual? Absolutely. Is it a bizarre creation? Absolutely. But it's a wonderful, literally, game of the mind, curated of music and artwork and prints and games, putting it together. So I almost thought about putting this at number 1, but then I realized, this shouldn't be number 1, because the music is limited in scope. You have the proper album remixed, better than it's ever sounded, because I'm one that didn't feel the Mind Games album sounded very good at all, the original. And I have original UK and US copies. It's a sound, and maybe some people like it and got used to that sound, but it's a blanket over muffled kind of piece of crap sound. And I think so many people would say the songs on that album were good because of the way it was put together. And you have some of the greatest New York session musicians of the day, of the time, back in 1973, doing this beautiful stuff. And they're buried, and there's no dynamics in the music, but the remix is excellent. I love the outtakes, the alternate versions, the dry versions. I like the element mixes that Sean's put together, the progress of the songs. There's all these variations of artwork in this box set. There are zoetrope discs, there are puzzles, there are posters, there are literally cubism art pieces, Fluxus conceptual art pieces based on, again, that work of John and Yoko, literally pieces based on creations that John and Yoko created back in the 1960s and 1970s. And it is a brilliant piece, over the top, expensive, but a work of art. And the only reason it's not number one, because I think the scope of music has to come into play here. And this is a narrow scope of music for Mind Games, but it is a brilliant, brilliant box set. So that's Mind Games coming in at number 2. And the best box set of 2024, in my opinion, is Still Barking, the Bonzo Dog Doodah Band. This is a massive set. Now, I'll get into what this is about, what it contains in a minute. But the Bonzo Dog Doodah Band, kind of this Dadaist, experimental, art school, off-kilter, musical, comedy, sketch, song-based, though, presentation of a band, really started out in the early 60s, 1962, doing a lot of comedy and traditional jazz music, trad jazz as they called it in the UK. Outrageous costumes, outrageous performances. Most of the songs were written by Vivian Stanchel and Neil Innes, who would later become Ron Nasty of the Ruddles and work with Monty Python. In the middle 60s, they were regulars on a British sketch show called Do Not Adjust Your Set with 3 members of Monty Python, Eric Idle, Terry Jones, and Michael Palin. And who influenced who? Their song from their first album, Gorilla, there's a song on that album called Death Cab for Cutie. And of course, the band took their name from the Bonzo song. And that song would be performed by the Bonzos in the strip show segment of the Beatles' Magic or Mystery Tour. And their first album didn't come out until 1967. But this box set is incredible. There is an elaborate book here that goes through the entire history of the band. There are essays and remembrances by Pete Townsend of The Who befriended them. There is a part of an interview from John Entwistle of The Who. They were friends with Keith Moon, of course. The zaniness of the Bonzo band fits right in with the weird antics of Keith Moon, of course. And he loved the Bonzo Dog Band, and they would hang out as well. And of course, Paul McCartney was a fan. And Paul McCartney eventually produced what would be their biggest single. He produced the song Urban Spaceman, a song written by Neil Innes and produced by Paul McCartney under the moniker Apollo C. Vermouth. It was their biggest hit, and it was on their debut album as well, called Gorilla. I remember a song called Intro and the Outro, which is a wonderful kind of humorous introduction, introducing the band. And after introducing the main band, they go on to say Eric Clapton on ukulele and Adolf Hitler on triangle or keyboard or something, Wild Man of Borneo, and they go on and on and on, and it's hysterical. Liberace. It's one of the most humorous pieces of music, but the music is the center for this. So it's not just a comedy album with a little music added in, like maybe Monty Python. Of course, Neil Innes would write songs in the Monty Python movies as well, like Holy Grail and others. But this is an amazing set. They would tour America in 1969. performing at the Fillmore East and the Boston Tea Party and other venues in America too. But they kind of had a cult status. They weren't huge in America. Some of the humor probably went over the heads of a lot of Americans. I really enjoy this type of humor because of the Beatles, because of Monty Python, and especially because of Bonzo Dog Duda, man. I just love this. After a facsimile of sort of the intro from Liberty Records of somewhat of a press release introducing this band and about the initial debut of the band, we have this wonderful poster that comes with the set. And then we have a series of 8x10 glossy photographs of each member of the band here. And I'm not going to go through each one, but you get a sense of it here. Really wonderfully produced in this slipcover. And then another set of beautiful color images here of the Bonzo Dog Band. The entire catalog here is stereo and mono for the early albums, like their debut Gorilla, the Donut in Granny's Greenhouse, stereo and mono. You have stereo of Tadpoles, stereo of Kencham, and then of course, Let's Make Up and Be Friendly. Another one-off of singles, various mixes. In the studio backing tracks, the Bonzos. Madness live at the Marquee Club. This isn't a great recorded record, but it's more of a, I would say, a deep dive. Live at the Marquee Club in 1971 with a couple tracks from London 1967. Demos and outtakes. This is fabulous. This is a double CD set. You have 3 CDs of the BBC session. This is fabulous. And then live. Now, this is, again, not one of the greatest soundings in this set. You have WAAU, which is actually pretty good. That's from an Amsterdam radio broadcast, and Paradiso in Amsterdam. Those are actually pretty decent recordings. But the Fillmore East 1969, I know Bill Graham used to do board tapes and video of a lot of his shows, but this is kind of subpar, but it's still cool to hear him in this kind of venue here at the Fillmore East in New York City. And now the DVDs, 3 DVDs. And I love this. I was surprised how much I love this first piece. It's called The Artist. It is, The Artist is a Young Man, a Neil Innes art school film from 1965. It plays like a Max Sennett silent film with Vivian Stanchel doing this piece, straw hat and everything. And it's just really wonderful on here. There are also some shows from New Faces, from Pathé footage of some of their songs, and the Beat Club, again, as I said, the Beat Club, the music show out of Germany. That's in 1967 and 1968. Some of these I've seen on YouTube. You can see them. And a few other things here. Then there's DVD 2, which has Do Not Adjust Your Set. A lot of the performances they did on that TV show with 3 members pre-Monty Python and their pieces here. They do covers song too as well. They do a cover, pretty faithful but over-the-top version of the Monster Mash. So there's a comedy shtick to their music. Now, some may say, how much can you listen to this? How many times can you listen to comedy albums? These are musical albums. These are musical comedy albums. And with Neil Innes, they got into more of a pop scene and a more of a, again, that Beatle, Paul McCartney-ish type things. There's also an essay by Mike McCartney, Mike McGear, who would perform in the comedy troupe Scaffold and do some projects with some of the members here, the Grimm brothers. So this is a fantastic deep dive. This is a wonderful box set, amazing design. You couldn't possibly ask or want for more, but they celebrate the life of this band that played a major part in British music in the 1960s into the very early 70s. Vivian Stanchel is the MC of the band. He is like the lounge singer, the performer. They go into 1950s rock and roll covers. They go all over the place. They're such a wacky, crazy outfit. The Bonzo Dog Band were just so unique. They're almost like a comedy version of the Mothers of Invention, maybe not as precise musically, but they mix that 1920s jazz into 1960s Baroque pop music, especially with the push of Neil Innes's songwriting. A fabulous box set, a fabulous collection, something I didn't expect to buy or even to really enjoy as much as I do. Still barking, the best box set of 2024. Thanks for watching. Have a happy holiday and a happy new year. Mazzy loves you.